All right. Well, we're going to get going here. I see the room is filling up nicely. Thanks everybody for joining us today. We've got probably one of the most comprehensive presentations today that we've given. We've been holding these things regularly a couple of times a month. And we want to thank you all for participating in these webinars, these educational webinars from Biamp. Today, we're going to look at performance and presentation systems with community loudspeakers. And we're very, very glad that we're able to secure the talents of Todd Stevens, our director of the Loudspeaker Solutions Group, for this webinar, along with Andrew Rutkin, our field sales engineer in the Western United States. So let's get going, Todd. All good webinars start with a setup. So let's set this up. Biamp, what is our vision? Our vision is to connect people through extraordinary audiovisual experiences. And we know that what's extraordinary today will not be extraordinary tomorrow. So we're always pushing that envelope, moving forward. Todd? And where do we operate? Well, we operate in rooms and buildings and campuses and in enterprises. So from the smallest to the largest deployment, we can handle it. And today you'll be hearing a lot about loudspeaker deployment in these sectors. And as a company, we're guided by our SEEK philosophy. Our SEEK philosophy basically is simplicity, efficiency, effectiveness, experiences, and connectedness. And everything we do here at Biamp in building product, designing product, or any of the processes that we put together, basically everything gets examined through our SEEK philosophy. Yeah, and of course we have a wide range of AV solutions for the entire enterprise. So we have Tessera AV processing and distribution platforms, from our Parley mics to our DeSono loudspeakers to our Devio huddle room solutions, paging and emergency communications with Vocia, networking software and commissioning control with SageView. We have sound masking with Cambridge, event audience engagement with Crowd Mics, our wireless presentation systems, which has been seeing a lot of traction these days, is Modena. And of course, today our focus will be on community professional loudspeakers. And let's not forget, we have unified communications bundle certified for Zoom, Meets, and Teams. And these are some of the products that are part of that array of applications that we use, from the room to the enterprise, from UC collaboration all the way to sound masking, including staging and entertainment and background music and distributed audio, which we'll be talking a lot about today. So, Todd. And we serve a range of vertical markets, right? Business, education, government, themed entertainment, houses of worship, sports venues, healthcare, performance venues, which is our focus today, transportation, hospitality, and retail. So with that, let's get started with performance venues. And let's talk about what is a performance and presentation space. And to kick that off, I'm going to introduce Andrew Rutkin, our field sales engineer here in the West. Take it away, Andrew.
All right, thanks, Bill. Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining us today. So let's start off with kind of a definition of what we're talking about today. What is a performance space? What is a presentation space? And you see the answers right there up there on the screen. It covers a huge range of applications, from rooms that might only seat less than 100 people to huge venues that seat thousands and thousands of people. Theaters, live music venues, concert halls. I don't need to read through this whole list. There are some things, though, that might be kind of outriders that we don't normally think of as performance spaces. Houses of worship are a prime example. Many modern houses of worship are very large venues and rely on amplified music and large sound systems to spread the word to all of the parishioners that are present, and up to thousands of people. There's a variety of outdoor venues, amphitheaters, and stages that are considered presentation spaces. Things ranging from dinner theaters to gymnatoriums and cafetoriums in high schools. And there's also a huge range of customers that are buying and operating these systems, ranging from professional theaters, a Broadway theater, or some facility that does professional roadshow type theater or live music events. A huge variety of government organizations that own and operate anything from a civic auditorium to an outdoor amphitheater. Many corporate clients have facilities that we would consider large, most likely a presentation space, where they're making corporate presentations or all hands meetings, things of that sort. But they fall into kind of the technical definition of what we're talking about today, because they're basically large rooms with high power sound reinforcement systems. There are also huge opportunities in the K through 12 school market. Every school out there has an auditorium, has a gymnatorium or a cafetorium, some kind of a multi-purpose venue that they use for a variety of different applications that all require sound reinforcement. And that scales all the way up to even outdoor venues, football and baseball stadiums that require large sound systems. The same is true for the higher ed end of the department. They have all those same kind of applications, and typically theater arts programs, any variety of large venues that serve as performance, entertainment, presentation spaces. So let's move on and talk about the solutions that Biamp offers for these kinds of spaces. As Phil mentioned, we're going to focus quite a bit on community for obvious reasons. The speakers are kind of the pointy end of the stick in these kind of applications. They're the things that really required a lot of tailoring and integration design to adequately cover the huge range and the very demanding prospects of these types of applications. And Biamp, with the community acquisition a couple of years ago, is very well positioned to cover all the bases for these type of venues, with literally hundreds of different SKUs, models of loudspeakers available. Everything from the very smallest ceiling speakers up to extremely large line array and beamforming speakers that Todd will go into greater detail about in a little while. I also want to mention here that Biamp features a huge number of choices and for the electronics ends of this of these types of systems as well. Everything from the Tessera platform, which most people tend to identify with conference rooms and things of that sort, smaller video teleconferencing applications. But the Tessera platform is designed from the get-go to be scalable up to the very largest systems with hundreds of inputs and outputs. And it supports analog inputs and outputs, obviously, but also Dante, AVB, even CobraNet for scalability to the very largest applications. There are even versions of the Tessera Forte platform that are specifically designed for integration into sound reinforcement systems. They don't have any of those teleconferencing features that many of the Tessera Forte models do. And I've also got to mention the community amplifiers, the ALC product line, with power ratings up to 3,200 watts a channel to power those the large line arrays or large point source speaker arrays that are typical in these kinds of applications. Something that doesn't come up that often on a lot of people's radars, but is an extremely valuable add for these kind of systems that are CrowdMic's offering. Another company that Biamp purchased a year or two ago. And this in large auditorium type venues gives you the ability to offer every attendee in the audience a microphone. If they have a smartphone in their pocket, they have a microphone in their pocket. They can address directly into the sound system in the venue with a moderator controlling. So for a multi-purpose hall that might be used for, say, civic events or council meetings or something of that sort, where audience participation is a big part of the plan, crowd mics is a great solution. No more passing around the microphone. Everybody's got a microphone with them. Members of the audience can also submit text messages and ask questions that way. And the operators of the system, the moderator, can send surveys out and ask the crowd for responses. Crowd mic can also operate in the local venue and over the internet, actually involve an international or worldwide audience with interaction with what's happening in the venue. So that's kind of a quick wrap up of the Biamp universe of products that go into these kinds of applications. Now I'm going to turn it over to Todd Stevens, our director of the Loudspeaker Solutions Group, and he's going to drill down into a little bit more detail about the products themselves and what kind of applications those specific products might be applicable for. So take it away, Todd.
Very good, thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate the time you've afforded us. So I want to take us through a few different families of products, and I'll put the caveat that we're not going to do a deep dive into specs and look at all the nitty gritty on these things. I want to take you through some of the options we have and approach it from more of a application direction, because we have so many options. We try to make devices for all manner of applications, and it can quickly take us down a rabbit hole. So we'll look more from a higher level and just look at some of the solutions we have and examples of the applications. So I'm going to start with our V series. These are, they've been around for a long time and they offer just consistent performance. They're more for the medium-sized venues. Yeah, you can get some significant output out of these things, but really where we're finding these applied is your smaller venues where you might have some budget concerns, so you can't just stretch the dollar into large systems. You're going to keep it on the smaller systems, but still very applicable in lots of different venues. Whether you're in a lecture hall, black box theaters, into those multi-use rooms, band rooms, restaurants and cafes. There's bars. We do a lot of these things in. So it's going to be more of your hybrid applications, right? You can have multi-use rooms, but they're certainly still capable of handling a stage in a smaller venue. They're point source boxes, so we're not going to be stretching these through long distances and so forth. But we still try to take care of a lot of rigging with these. So we try to make the whole install easy on you. We don't require you to go to third party and creative measures to get these things up in the air, which creative means not safe. So anyway, looking at these guys, not all of the models are pictured here, but a good example of them, because we have a single 6, a dual 6, single 8, dual 8, a two-way 12-inch and a three-way 12-inch, a two-way 15 and a three-way 15-inch device. So kind of from a small to a pretty good size point source box. And you can see the subwoofer companions in this family. One of my favorites, it's a small format. It's the dual 8-inch VLF 208 LV. That box you see on the left there, it's about 2 feet by 2 feet and 10 inches tall. Makes for a great solution when you don't want to see a subwoofer. We make a bracket so you can tuck this on a wall or up into the ceiling, and it really does a good job of rounding out the system. When you don't need just gut pounding bass coming out of the system, you just want some LF extension. These are just a fabulous solution. But we also have a dual 12 and a dual 15. So if you're needing to obviously add some more energy down there, well, we have some solutions for you there as well. And all of these boxes are very efficient for where they are in the price range, let's say, which means you can get a lot out of your power amp. And to basically match you up to some of the competitive product, you can get better output for how much power you put behind these things. Looking at some of the rigging options, we try to get into a lot of spaces and try to have a solution to help you get these things up into the air or on a wall. So we have the versatile bracket there that can mount you from a ceiling and give you a down angle and lock it in. The vertical flying kit, of course, you're probably going to end up with a cluster somewhere out there. So that fly kit gives you a 45 and a 60-degree angle between your cabinets. We'll see a solution there where that becomes important. Eye bolts, we have the yoke mount bracket. Nice thing about that guy is it's not just a flat yoke mount. It comes with an offset, so you can put that thing in a 10-degree angle or a 20-degree angle off the wall, so a little bit of flexibility there. The vertical yoke now allows us to do pan and tilt. So if you're coming down from the ceiling, this makes a pretty flexible solution, so you can really get this thing aimed properly and not just suffer from sticking it on a wall and setting yourself at a 10 or 20 degree angle. And the pan on that kind of solution becomes an issue because you can't get it maximized. So use the vertical yoke. It's a nice solution to give you maximum flexibility in aiming the device. So in a generic kind of sense, well, let's look at a typical auditorium. This might hold 100, 200, 300 people. So it, obviously this will be scaled to whatever you need, but it's more or less a presentation auditorium, but probably a multiple use space. So your stage could see a band, playback music, you name it. But in this scenario, I've got a couple 12-inch two-ways, so our what we call our V2 1296. And using that vertical flying kit, we can cluster them on the sides there. And this gives us, solid center coverage because we can angle in those inside cabinets, and then we can get a little bit more distance on the outside cabinets and attend pretty evenly across that space. Even with point source cabinets, we can do a good job attending to the depth of the audience. At some point you're going to run out of gas and the back of the room is going to be a little softer, but when you don't have all the money in the world to spend, these make for solid solutions. They're easy to put up. The hardware is easy to get. It's on our price sheet. Put them on up there. And of course we got the subs. So this will usually just invite the issue, as always, of where to put the subs. We can fly these things up in the air if there's no real estate on the ground. I'd like to put them in the center of the room at the front of the stage, but sometimes you just have an aisle there that won't afford us that, so they'll end up on the stage. But regardless, we work with the environment, we try to make the best decisions, and we have solutions to start giving you some more of that LF support in the room. So in the real world, these are the kind of applications we see. There's the gymnatorium on the left, a single sub, a center hang there with two boxes. It does a good job getting through the room, right? It's, those rooms are never fun environments to listen to because of the echo and the reverberation around the room. But, when you got $1,000 or so to spend, well, you're going to have to do what you can. And we like these boxes because they follow our general philosophy of speech intelligibility. That's our first and foremost goal in any of our loudspeakers, because most people are listening to the voice. Yes, we want to be able to have music in full range through these things, but even in our smallest devices, you will have intelligibility. So we try to do a good job of getting a box that is flexible, and even if you can't afford a nice system that's going to really tackle a gymnatorium like that, well, V-Series do a great job of attending to that room as best we can. And of course, community theaters, churches, you name it. But on the right there, you see a collection in a more or less a small exploded center array. But we can angle them accordingly to best match the coverage to the audience zone. Anyway, here's another nice one on the left. Well, that was this is actually a really nice hall in the UK. You can imagine it's quite an old building. It left something to be desired. As you can see in the left, it's just kind of rat's nest cables and so forth. We convinced them to get rid of those side speakers, because why do you have a front pair and then some other ones right next to it that aren't aimed down at the front? Whatever. We on the right though, it's all cleaned up, looks really nice. It's a multi-purpose room, as you can see. So they've got stage actors going on. Not a lot of energy needed into that room. Again, it's mostly vocal energy, but they'll have playback tracks, so we can take care of that. They also deploy the screen and make it a cinema experience. So we've got the mains there and some delay fills going down the side for your surround experience. So again, it's a really nice budget-friendly way to cover this room. It didn't need much energy. A lot of the voice is acoustic in there, but you need some reinforcement and some support. So nice, simple install. So while that was quick on V-Series, we do have some stuff to talk about here. So I want to keep moving into our I-Series. So this is where we really step up the game and give you high performance, high output, lots of flexibility in our options, from our modular vertical array, the IV6 that you see on the right there, to lots of point source options, compact systems, a myriad subwoofers to match to the job at hand. And again, lots of hardware. We like to, again, keep that on the price sheet so it makes it easy to order from us and makes it easy for us to design something that makes sense for you. So looking at these guys in general, we want to keep them more or less inconspicuous. You can't hide a speaker because, after all, you need to face the ears with these things. But they're nice and clean looking. We try to keep it the same across the family. And then, never mind making the aesthetic appearance of these even and consistent, we want to make sure that the acoustic performance is consistent. So all of these devices are going to have the same sonic signature. So you can mix and match these in the room as needed, and make your delay fills sound the same as your mains. Just provide the coverage that you need in the room and where you need it. So again, matched up both aesthetically and sonically. iSeries has, as I said, lots of options. So we go different sizes. We have lots of different coverage patterns on these things. So everything from a 60 by 40 horn all the way up to a 120 by 60, and lots of options in between that, because, well, we want to try to focus that energy, especially in the mid and high frequencies, to the audience. Try to keep it out from exciting the room, and critically, obviously, just get the voice where the audience is. So lots of different patterns, so we can fine tune that. Again, the styling is discrete. We ship standard with black and white. We'll do custom colors. Lots of bracketry and hardware and rigging options on our price sheet. So some flexibility there from us as well. We have the compact series that you see on the right there, the foreground of that collection there. Those are just wonderful little beasts. From a 6-inch two-way, 8-inch two-way, and a double 8-inch two-way. They can both be foreground or distributed music systems. We also offer the 70 and 100 volt transformers on those, so you can stretch a bunch of them along a wall if you're just reinforcing some of the fill spaces at the back of the house, as it were. And then again, for the 12s and 15s, you see that 27 point source variations. And that covers all the different horn patterns that we have for these, as well as 2 different power levels. So you'll see in our models an IP6 and an IP8, and the same follows for the subs, IS6 and IS8. But the reason we do that is, generally speaking, the 600 series is for your let's just say, typical output. You need something high output, very clear and intelligible, rock and roll happening. But when we go to our 800 series, these are really for high level performance that's going hours and hours on end, long duty cycles. And when you're confronted with that, say a club or a ball field that is just blaring music, because let's face it, ball fields are all about music now too. Well, we move into our 800 series because they don't suffer from what we call power compression. Those things are going to be voiced and perform for long periods. So we'll move into those. The 600, by and large, we deploy those, but there are scenarios where an 800 series becomes an important factor. And rotatable horns in pretty much all of these, except for the IC6. The little guy, that's 6-inch, that's a conical 100 by 100, but the other devices you can install in both a vertical or horizontal configuration, and we can either configure the horns at the factory, or you can do that on site. It's not a difficult scenario. And lots of subwoofers, both in the 600 and 800 series. Again, everything from a 12-inch to a dual 18. The 12 is just a nice small form factor and does some pretty amazing output for its size. So, we can tuck them in, we can make them visible, we can stack them, we can accomplish a lot of LF and a lot of scenarios, both indoors and out, because we have indoors and outdoor versions of all this stuff. So, including our line array, which we'll take a look at in a little bit more detail in just a few, and I'll go through some more of that outdoor solutions and why and how we design those speakers. So, in another generic kind of drawing here, We've all been in these restaurants, bars, cafes, whatever. A stage in the far left corner there, top left corner. And in this, I'm using IP6 1122. So that's that 600 series. And this is a 12-inch two-way speaker mounted in a horizontal configuration using our yoke that's on the price sheet. And the waveguide on these guys, the horn, is of sufficient size that we can really get some good distance off of this thing. This room, I think we're about 14 feet. You know, these rooms typically don't have high ceilings, so you're a little bit restricted in how much coverage you can get from front to back. But we can certainly get some great energy up front. If you need a little bit more to even it out toward the back, well, we'd use what you see on the left there, that IC6 1082, the compact series 8-inch two-way. So you could start deploying those as delays farther back in the room. There's one sub on the floor in the center there. Again, I try to get subs in the center because you don't have to worry about some interference patterns, but nonetheless, you got to put them where you have to. That's usually an aesthetic and a real estate question, so we get it. You might have to put them on the outsides of the stage, but we also have bracketry and rigging for putting that up in the air as well. You'll see another rigging option for such a scenario coming up here. Slightly larger room. Now I've got raked seating in this. I've got an elevated stage, and you know, maybe the trim height, the height of the room isn't going to afford us a larger array of sorts, or the budget might not get us there, but we still need some really consistent output and coverage. Well, and often people might say, oh, I want a line array in this. Well, sometimes it's not the right solution. So we might say point source is a better solution, and we can cover the depth of this room with a point source because raked seating actually gives us some advantage there. So as you have that slope, well, we don't really have to go too far in terms of the speaker design. So here I've got some more of those 1122s, the 12-inch two-ways, and you could pick the performance level of those things. But we have that fly kit that you see there that allows us to put the sub behind it, because again, you might just not have the real estate on the ground. And if we can do a system like this, the subs are relatively close to each other, so the performance is even through the room. And again, these boxes do a good job for getting even from front to back. As long as the back, as it were, isn't too far away, we can really keep this in pretty tight tolerance for even coverage throughout the room. And this scenario, we mentioned those ALC amplifiers earlier. We could get this job done with 2 of those amps, two of the ALC 1604s. You know, spec sheet, you'd say four channels of 1600 watts. With these speakers on them, you're probably looking at about 1200 watts, which is a very nice realm to be in for these speakers. You'd be bridging channels for those subs because, hey, if you want subs, you probably want to be able to have some headroom down there. But those amplifiers with 2 of them, and literally 2 rack spaces with those 2 amps, you've got all the juice you need to hit this room. And you can add subwoofers, just depending on the needs of the room, needs of the client. So this is just a nice clean room that we did. You can see it's 3 audience sections. There's 1 point source box, 1 IP series, hitting each of these seating sections. You know, yeah, you could have put line arrays in here, but this is a nice looking room. You didn't need to, we didn't need to, we got all the coverage we needed. Again, this stage, by and large, is gonna be voice activity, presenters, maybe some playback music. You could put subs in here if you needed, if you had a space, but that proscenium looks nice. They're not gonna wanna put an array on that wall. Never mind, you have sightline issues. If you drop a big array down, you're gonna start coming into that curtain there. So even with 3 speakers, this is a pretty good size room, but we have the patterns in these devices to take care of the entire audience, so you can still have a very consistent experience throughout. This is a lovely high school. I can tell you, when I went to high school, we didn't have this kind of budget for a room, but that is a lovely space. So not a pretty picture, because hey, we can't get pictures of all of our projects just because the clients sometimes just don't want to show off. I don't know, but this is it was actually a multi-level club that we did, and the list on the left just shows you a pretty good collection of different devices that we can put in here. And so it's the IP6 1122s by and large, again, that 12-inch two-way, but different horn patterns. So a 90 by 60, the 99 is a 90 by 90, and so forth. So the H will mean horizontal. The other will be in a vertical, or doesn't really care because we're throwing them over the audience. So those 8 center speakers in the main dance floor area are coming down from on high, 25 feet up basically. And we're using some of the same cabinets in the, say, the VIP realm. So people want some activity in there, of course. And some of the smaller IC, the compact ones, the single 8-inch two-way, just covering some of this balcony area. So it fills it in nicely. Again, it's going to be matched sonically to the mains coming throughout, but you just want to put some more intelligibility over there and give it a little more action. Easy enough. So we can pick the right devices for the locations inside of the venue. And of course, litter the place with subs till your heart's content. That's easy to do. It's all a matter of how much energy those people want in the space. So this one, 6 dual 18s went in here for this floor. Still gives a pretty rocking experience. This map that you see here is a heat map. If you haven't seen Ease Focus, it's a third-party software made by AFMG, and manufacturers like us pay to have our products in it, which means it's free to use for anyone out there. So you can download Ease Focus 3 and do modeling for your space. And you can see in the end, this is this output, this heat map, is generally keeping us in the 108 to 111-ish zone. So we're very tight there. If we can be in a plus minus 3 dB, we're looking good, and we're certainly there where the people are. So high output system, and we can go bigger. We have a 3-way device, a 15-inch 3-way that will just take this up a notch. Let me tell you, it's a big speaker, super high output. Fits perfectly well in a high output club, especially when you have a DJ booth or something like that, and just need point source going around the room. And then when you need to go, well, actually smaller or lots bigger, we're going to step into our IV6. So it's a modular vertical array, and most people just call it a line array. That's fine and good, but we say modular because we have a couple different boxes that we can use in this. So we have a 5 degree and a 15 degree. And these are 2-way speakers. So you've got a 12-inch low frequency in these and 2 high frequency devices. But when you have the 15 and 5, we can get pretty flexible in how we're covering the audience zone. So you can see on the left there, we've got a three box 15 degree solution, and we call that a constant curvature because you're really just stacking 15s together and you end up with a roughly 45 degree coverage when they're just tight packed like that. Or you can start going bigger and use a bunch of 5 degree boxes. And this is typically what you see. There's tons of line arrays out there. There'll be a fixed vertical pattern, and you just start stacking until your heart's content and you've got the output and coverage you need for the audience zone. But when you do something like that, well, you start having to be, well, you're going to be confronted with the near field. That's going to be high output, but maybe you're going to need to start bending the array like you see on the right to cover the near field. Well, if you have 5 degree boxes, you're going to need to use more of them to keep coverage even in the near field. So why not start using a 15 degree box at the bottom? So I'm covering more depth with that speaker, but I can use fewer of them. So as I start curving it, it's more of a hybrid coverage, as we say. And so we can kind of fine tune that just by the speakers themselves. Now, if you know us, we're passive speakers. There's obviously lots of powered speakers out there, fine and good. We go the passive route because that'll be one part of this system becoming very easy to install and less expensive to install. So if I can stretch an array like this and use a few cables of power amp power going to this, I don't have to run my 120 or 240 going up to this ceiling, which is a nightmare, an expensive cost. And then of course, all your amps are up in the air, and it's a different equation when it comes to servicing this. So passive up in the air, we have the hardware to put it up in the air. And with our ALC amplifiers, we can actually take care of typically 6 devices. So an array of 6 speakers can actually be put on one amp channel. There's 16 ohm speakers. Let's not get into too much of the math, but suffice it to say, we can stack a lot of these boxes on a single amp channel. So even that larger array you see on the right, I would probably end up with 2 amp channels because you're going to want some more granular control at the bottom, but still 2 amp channels for that array, 2 amp channels for its brother across the stage. And then of course subs are just going to have to be figured out as well. But we have a single 18 sub that packs into this, so you can put it on the top of the array, you can put it behind the array, ground stack them, you name it. But what that means is it's very simple to install. One or 2 amp channels, it's passive, put it up in the air. I'm stretching 1 or 2 speaker cables to this thing, and that makes the whole package easy to install and less expensive. So certainly a nice option in terms of ease and flexibility. So looking at a couple spaces here, here's a pretty compact array. This is 4 of the 5 degrees and 1 15 degrees. So the 5 degree boxes are on the top and the 15 degrees on the bottom, because that again is the near field of this audience. So this helps me keep it nice and even across the room. And a complement of subs up front. This is showing actually 4 of the single 18s packed together there at the center of the stage. We're using some of the 8-inch two-way boxes as our front fills, stage lit fills, whatever you want to call them. But we can get those in 120 by 60 pattern, so we can keep them pretty wide and just help pull down that image for the front audience. We always want to try to do that because those arrays are pretty far away from them. So you got to figure maybe some of that stage noise or sound is getting to them first. So we like to use those front fills so you can start pulling down that image and make it more localized for the stage and for those people up front. And I'll talk to this a little bit more later, but this is all designed in point 2 that you see there. We're determining the coverage using a plugin that we made for Ease Focus 3. So it makes it easy to configure this and make sure you've got the right boxes in it and covering the room like you want to. So you could do it, we can do it, we can prove what you've put together in a design. So we like to take a look at designs because we can make sure that all the coverage is even. Anyway, flexible, it's going to be a nice output system right there. Super even. This one can easily be within a dB tolerance throughout that realm. So very even for all the ears in the room. And as you see at the bottom there, look at the amp complement. 2 ALC 3202s. That's roughly speaking 3,200 watts a channel, but I'd use a channel each for the mains and then another amp for the subwoofers on this whole thing. The ALC 404 would take care of our front fills, and maybe you'd end up with an open channel for some delay fills if needed, but with 3 amps we could take care of this whole system. So again, low cost, and these amplifiers have all the processing you need for the speakers. So that's they're pretty beastly amplifiers and well worth the money. They're not the most expensive amps, but while there's a price tag, they come with a lot of features. And while I think of it, never mind all the DSP in those things, but they have voltage limiters, which becomes very important, especially as we're doing a lot of this stuff outdoors. People love to push faders up and start blowing things, but we have limiters in these things that are actually voltage limiters, which means, hey, it's really hard to blow a speaker. Benefit. Another lovely room. I can't remember how long ago we did this one, maybe in the last few years, but it was it's a beautiful space. And we did it with 6 speakers, sub on top, so everything's up in the air, very clean looking. We have side panels on those, the IV6 line arrays, so they become, quite inconspicuous as much as you can be, but you don't see a bunch of rigging on the sides of these things, pins and metal structures, just a clean looking install. And this room was quite nice to experience, let me say. And while you might say, well, it's only 2 subs up there, the full range cabinets, the IV6 1122s, the full ranges, they're pretty consistent down to about 70 or 60 hertz. So I get a good amount of low frequency out of these things, especially as I start building an array. So sometimes you just don't need that much sub complement, and this system is a well-rounded installation. But if you have to go a little bit bigger, this is looking at 2 hangs of 10 boxes. So it's a mixture of those 5 degrees and 15 degrees. But with such a system, now I can get just super even across this room. I mean, every seat in this house is definitely going to be experiencing the same thing throughout. Now, yeah, we're going to have probably a little bit of shadowing by that balcony, right? So we're going to need some under balcony fills. And again, those IC6 series just do a wonderful job there. They're lower profile. They match the sonic signature of the mains going into this room, but you need to tuck them up into that under balcony space and just pick up that back part of the crowd that might be falling out of the coverage pattern of the main system. Again, more of those across the front of the stage. This is showing 8 of the single 18 subwoofers. You could, of course, buy 4 of our dual 18s or more, whatever you need for this. And again, to that earlier point, I do like putting those in the center if you can, but we all know that sometimes you got to throw them on the outsides of the stage. No particular problem. You just want to look at where the energy is going in the room. You can start falling into realms of what we call power alleys and just have some pretty big output down the center of that room versus the sides. Anyway, and this whole system, if you look at the bottom point there, is taking about 9 amplifiers. It's going to be a higher output system, but I've got 20, 28, 32 speakers, and I'll need 8 or 9 power amps to do all that and just give plenty of lovely headroom to take care of this room. So the arrays would take in this case 4 channels. So 2 amplifiers for those arrays. You could go more just depending on how much people like to do, get granular in the control of this, but I can still stack a lot of those boxes on 1 amp channel. And even with that huge system, I'm putting 4 pieces of cable up into the air. Quite a simple conversation there. It's a beautiful room we got to do up in Delaware. It's a lovely old theater. We did the main theater to this as well with our Entasis column arrays and a couple subs. And while I'm not spending time talking about Entasis today, that system is quite nice, I'll just say. I mean, obviously, we all love talking about our good speakers, but still, it was a high performance system, you know, balcony around the top, 1,200 seats. I don't have the picture here again, but you know, it was able to take care of Lyle Lovett and his big band. When they came in, they said, all right, we'll use the mains. We'll just add our subs because, you know, the house system didn't have many subs, but still take care of a full band like that and real performance. That was a good anecdote to keep next to these, our solutions. But yeah, you see here that five boxes aside, you just don't see the other array, but it's a very beautiful space. And again, we just try to keep these things clean, try to use the optimal locations, and they let us here. You got some stage lip fills, and this whole system can run off 2 amps. Back to all the hardware. We have, again, plenty of hardware on our price sheet. So we have the light array frame, we have the glide point array frame for this system, which isn't in one of these shots, but it's been exemplified, but nonetheless, you can find it on the website. But lots of metal work. So we can, you know, cool solutions like these side fills. You know, sometimes you have to do a mono array for a room, but then you're going to start forgetting about a couple of the front rows on the side. So you might want to hang a couple speakers on the side. Easy enough. Doing a choir monitor or stage monitor from up above is nice because you don't have to worry about where to put it on the ground. So it just, again, kind of sinks into the air, as it were, to cover the stage. You can, you know, aim that thing as needed. Sub behind solutions. We have a big sub behind frame that can go with our glide point frame for the line array, our big frame. But even simpler solutions like this can become part of it, and it's yet another piece that's just on the price sheet, and we can marry whatever subwoofer to the IV6 line array that whatever we need. And then we do third party. So if we don't have a piece of metal for you and we don't have everything because we can't get into all the structural components that are needed, well, we partner with Polar Focus a good bit. Now, there are other manufacturers out there that obviously can provide metal work for a job, but Polar Focus makes a lot of our metal work, stuff that ends up on our price sheet. So we rely on them and we count on them to build a lot of solutions because they do have a lot of solutions, and they're standard solutions. So you can call them up and say, I need these, and they can usually ship them out the same day. I won't speak for them, but anyway, it's stuff they just regularly make. So you can see lots of different applications, but you do need to worry about structural support. They take over, work with structural engineers as needed, and get our speakers up in the air with lovely solutions that just work. So third party, certainly something we can partner on and offer solutions for, but there's a limit to our liability, as it were, when it comes to structural. So we have to push that over to engineers and so forth. So going through all those products, it becomes a question of how do I pick the right products? How do I put them in the room? So we want to try to simplify that for you. So if we go back to this room and say, all right, so what do we do in this case? How do you guys determine what do we need for this room and how is it going to perform? So we have a whole design team to do that. So if I take this room, I can look at how we drew this up. So it's made pretty easy for us. Again, this is Ease Focus. We have a plugin for it where you can build the array, and it allows you to articulate it, figure out your splay angles, figure out how much energy you need out of each box. And jumping to the end, what you're going to end up with is a report from the software that says, these are the components you need. This is the hardware that you need for it. This is the settings on the speakers that you need. And to that point, I'm going to quickly mention on the IV6, the back of the cabinet has a bunch of settings where you can do the cabinet attenuation. This box needs to be turned down this much, that kind of thing. But IV6 has enough fodder for another discussion. But in the end, you end up with a report that shows you exactly what you need, how to set these speakers, how to install them, well, where to install them in your room, and now it's predicted what the coverage is going to look like. Now, I'll say this room wasn't as particularly even as we would have liked. This was one of those cases where information came back after the system was installed, purchased and installed, and then they tell us the seating levels, the elevations were different. So we had to make do with what we had that was in there already, but we sent somebody out and they tuned the room and it ended up quite nice. So we do what we have to. Not everybody affords the right speaker package for the room and can't get to the even nature, but we do our darnest to really get the most out of the system, pick the right speakers for it, and deal with the limitations that might be at hand, right? And this is just one of those that crept up after everything's been installed because the site survey and the discovery phase of a project is always important. There's lots of details we'd like to get. Often we can work with a napkin drawing, but we like to see a lot more detail. And we can walk through that. Our design team is here to uncover those bits of information to make sure we have everything we need to properly model that room and properly pick the right speakers for it. But again, we can work with you on that. We have a design process on our webpage. You can submit a form it's a loudspeaker design request, and we'll cover that again at the end here. But anyway, lots of options. And of course, we're known for outdoor speakers. So all of these I-series speakers, whether there's the smallest ones through the subs to the line array, we make in outdoor versions. We call it polyglass. It's so structurally confident and sufficient for outdoor purposes that we can put our 15-year warranty on it like we do for our I-series. So R-series and I-series outdoor both get our 15-year enclosure warranty. It's 5 years on the internal parts. But anyway, we're very, very satisfied with this material. We started using it a few years back. But suffice it to say, this stuff is very rigid. It performs better outdoors than doing, say, a wood box with a fiberglass shell around it because those two substrates react differently, and that's where you'll find a failure in your enclosure. So this is one substrate. It's a fiber embedded board that just performs better outdoors through heat, through rain, through wind, through the elements in general, you name it. This stuff is built to last. So you can see everything from the grill fabric is attended to, so we can make sure we're taken care of in the environment. The fiberglass reinforcement inside, it's a polymer kind of substrate, but the neat thing is it comes to us and looks like a Baltic birch piece of plywood, just like we use for our indoor cabinets. But that means we can use all of our same machinery, and we can make one of these outdoor boxes just as quickly as we can make an indoor. And by that, I mean, if we have an order for these things and we don't have them in stock, it will take us 2 to 3 weeks to build a project out for these speakers. So very quick turnaround. We can do it all in-house on the same machinery, which just equals, fast service. Everybody has we get the phone calls, I need these tomorrow. Well, we can act pretty darn fast on these. 2 to 3 weeks is way faster than you might find from many others out there. And the hardware is also weather rated. So, we'll have stainless or powder coated aluminum as appropriate, and the hardware can cover the full range cabinets, and we can also use it on the subwoofers. So where do we use them outdoor? Yeah, these are going to be performance systems, right? You've got this, what do you call it, portico or gazebo? But anyway, it's going to have bands up there. It's going to have wedding ceremonies up there. It's going to have all sorts of party action up there. It's on the beach. It's good times. We've got some of our, I believe those are 1152s or 15-inch two-way, but suffice it to say, it's an I-Series two-way speaker. High output. You can chuck some subs around here if they need to roll them out, easy enough. You're not having to worry about power drops, of course, just stretch some cable to them. Again, some more over here where we're just covering this general area. Obviously, it's a pier, but they wanted some high output music up there, at least the capability for it. So we can put them up there. And obviously, this is an ocean, so we're perfectly happy in salt environments. No fear there. And obviously, just some delays around the space. You name it, we can put these things on poles. We work with third party again there. You might not call this a performance or a presentation space, but we work a lot in high-end hotels where this background music system will become a foreground music system. They might put a DJ out there. They're gonna get rid of all these seating and have a party out there and want some super high output loudspeakers. So we've tucked in, which are hard to see, some of our IC6 series. So we can get a very strong performance out of this, lots of nice coverage, really high musicality out of these systems, and just really get this system going. And look, if you noticed on the front here, we've got some of our entasis as well, filling in the spaces. Stage outdoors. This is in a gastropub down in Texas. Yeah, it looks like this place is in a sea container. Well, this is a sea container. They just cut it open for some of the, the drummer at least gets in the shade. But kind of a cool place. They've got this field here that's probably 120 feet deep, maybe 85, 90 feet wide. Just a small stack of the line array cabinets here. This is 2 5-degree boxes with a 15 under it, so you get some of your near field and get going into the mid back of the room, maybe pretty darn evenly. But they can live out there for all seasons. And then this is the sidewall of the actual venue. Inside is a cafe where we've got a lot of our other speakers, pendants, and so forth inside. But more of the IC6 2082s, the dual 8s on the outside walls here. So this is going back behind us in this photo. So it really rounds out the system and coverage throughout the audience area. Going a little bit bigger. You'll see these amphitheaters or lawn seating kind of applications all over the country. So subs on stage, full range on the outside on these poles. These are polar focus mounts. The system gave us good energy up this hill. Really nice and even, high output. So it could handle more larger bands. This looks like a jazz band on stage to me, or yeah, I think I see, yeah. Anyway. But Polar Focus makes these mounts for us. They call it a gimbal system, which gives us pan and tilt control. And this is over-engineered. It'll take a beating from pretty much any weather you can put at it. So it's a confidently installed system, well-rounded performance, very even coverage through this hill. And again, most importantly, people can understand the voice. We, again, love to attend to that. I'd be remiss not to put a quick note in for our L series. This is a new box from us, our LVH. It's a very complex system. It's for large scale deployments, very capable in terms of high output and very even coverage. It's a beamforming horn, which means we can control the vertical output of this. It's going to be a 90 and 60 degree wide pattern, but this is what we can do on the vertical coverage. And again, this thing can take a whole presentation unto itself, and we have had some out there. But we'll have an active standard and an active plus. Well, we do have active standard and active plus. Active standard means a single speaker, and then we can marry those two together and make a larger system, which gives us more output, more pattern control over these. But the whole idea behind this thing is high output, very consistent dispersion, pattern control on it, low distortion at high output, and smooth frequency response. So we have these fixed verticals right now. This is the beginning of this guy. But what that means is I can put the energy on the crowd, and as I step out of the pattern, you can notice that you're out of the pattern. I don't want to excite the room. I don't want to deal with interference patterns in the room. I want to put a box to an audience section, another box to the next audience section, maximize my use of energy out of these speakers, and simplify the install. So yes, we'll find these in larger stadiums, but there is no reason these can't be used in a performance venue because we can get super even coverage and very high output coverage and very detailed coverage. So again, sometimes line arrays aren't the right solution. Sometimes we should use something like this. We can determine those needs and the best product for the scenario with our design teams. So lots of options. This is just our new beast. And if you're in the Philly realm, on July 28th and 29th, you can come out. We're having a big old show just to have a good time in front of this and our IV6 line array, as well as some of our other boxes. So reach out if y'all want to show up if you're in the neck of the woods for Philly in late July. Anyway, I'm going to hand it back over to Andrew to close us out here. So I appreciate the time. I know it's a lot of information. Our contact's going to be at the end, but I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, Todd. Yeah, we've been talking about the big guns, the big speakers. I just wanted to throw in a good word for the DeSono product line here. Smaller speakers, ancillary spaces, secondary spaces, and all these kind of performance venues we're talking about. The DeSono series is almost 50 different products, not counting color variations, ranging from 4-inch ceiling speakers on up to 10-inch coaxial ceiling speakers and surface-mounted speakers. Ranging in power from 20 watts to over 200 watts power handling capacity, and a variety of different coverage patterns and package sizes. Pendant speakers, you can see several pendant speakers there on the image. Large variety of surface mount speakers, which feature, some of which feature a really neat click mount, which is a very time-saving feature. Allows you to install the speaker very quickly and very clean and aesthetically pleasing install as well. We also follow along those same voicing practices that Todd mentioned before. So it's easy to integrate these into a larger system as fills or as independent speakers in secondary areas, such as theater lobbies, hallways, restrooms, stairways, outdoor spaces too. Most of the surface mount speakers are weather resistant and can be used indoors or out. A variety of different mounting configurations are available as well. And across the board, all of them are available in black or white. So don't forget those when you are designing those large venues, because we all know that there's a lot of small spaces in those large venues as well. Then, okay, we've talked a lot about applications and we talked a lot about hardware, but and Todd talked a little bit about how we help you design. I wanted to mention that there's also a large library, a tremendous number of resources available on our Biamp website. Design guides, Todd drew a lot of his illustrations today from design guides that are available, downloadable from the Biamp website. They are great as a starting point, even if the room doesn't really match what the design guide says, just as a way to get an idea and start you down the path of choosing hardware for a particular application. And again, all of these are available for download. They're in addition to the application design guides, there are also a large number of instructional manuals and informational manuals about the hardware and rigging hardware that we supply as well. We also have a large variety of online tools to aid in design. conference room designer, which is applicable, intended mainly for video teleconferencing, but is applicable here in for secondary spaces. Mainly, it helps you lay out ceiling speakers. Todd spoke quite a bit about ease focus, and it really is a very powerful tool for system design and modeling. And we offer GLL packages for all of the community and Biamp products, and allow you to model their performance using ease focus. And Venue Polar, a add-in for ease focus, it was developed by the folks at Community specifically for the IB6 array to not only, as Todd mentioned before, help you position and aim the array, but it also provides you a bill of materials at the end of the process that tells you which models of speakers you use, which models of the rigging hardware and the quantities that you need, and how to configure the built-in passive filtering that allows you to taper the array elements while still being able to power them from a single amplifier channel. So we also have a number of other technical resources about specific information for some of our electronic hardware. That's available on the Cornerstone support website, and you see the web address there, support.biamp.com. A huge variety of informational articles and in-depth technical information about all of our products. If you've exhausted all those and you still have questions and you need to talk to somebody, that's what my role is. I'm a field sales engineer. I'm always available via email, text, or telephone to answer questions or help you with design challenges. Community also has an entire staff of people specifically tasked with helping you design loudspeaker systems, as Todd mentioned before. And there's a tab on our website that allows you to submit a request to them as well. We have a global tech support team for after sales support as well. After install, if you run into technical problems, we have 24/7 manned telephone lines and chat and email responses as well. So we're not only there to sell you the gear, we're well positioned to help you design it, help you integrate it, and keep it working after the install. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for us. So I'm going to turn it back over to Phil to close us out. Thanks again for attending today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you very much, Todd. Boy, when I said this was going to be comprehensive, I wasn't kidding. That was a great webinar. Thank you guys so much for putting that together. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to more of these educational webinars in the future. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day and a great rest of the week and weekend.